Welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Tonight we have one less co-host, but a lot more content coming. Tonight we're going to be talking about the new changes that AMG has made to the ships that we're going to get, hopefully in what we were told about a month to two, along with some of the suspected changes to points values. We're going to also talk about Gencon, and we're going to kind of go over some of the events that they released today, which we are extremely excited about. And we're going to be talking about a deep dive into standard format in some of the different list archetypes around one of the objectives. With that being said, let me bring my co-host in for the evening. Welcome, JJ, to the group. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing all right, man. Celebrated a 83rd birthday for a family relative that we have today. Really great. She's been a person who helped me out a lot coming down here in Florida. And I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at today without that lady. So happy birthday, Elena. And I hope and but the best for you.
Awesome. 83 years young. That's pretty good, man. You don't usually get that. That's that. You know, I don't expect to be 83. Just personally saying, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely, man.
Anyway, so good. Glad your weekend was fun and exciting. If you didn't notice from the intro, if you're listening to us on Podbean or whatever your podcast catcher is, you didn't get to see the new intro. You probably just got to hear the new music. It's not even finished. That is just my teaser. I'm thinking about adding either different music or a different voiceovers for it. But with that being said, I created a new intro this weekend, so that was what most of my time was spent doing. Other than we finally finished the Dunwich Legacy Arkham Horror campaign. It took me forever for me and my brother and my son to finish it. But we finished the very first campaign, and then we started Edge of the Earth today. So that was pretty fun. Maybe we should do an Arkham Horror cast. You never know. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be good. I know I'm going through D&D right now with my brother and my nephew and a few of his friends as well. It's a lot of fun. Oh my God, I forgot my classes because I have like several campaigns going on. I think mine is like it's not a road class. It's like Outlander. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with it.
Awesome. One of the things that we thought we would do that we haven't, JJ doesn't even know this yet, but we've been talking about content, trying to get content going, different things we can stream. Our goal is to stream a couple times a week for X-Wing games. The other thing I wanted to do is do a Star Wars RPG campaign. My son has all the material. He's been working. He's supposedly building something. And I bet you if we could do that and do one of those like a month or something like that, and he would actually lead us through that campaign. So look for more information to come, but I've been thinking about doing that all weekend, and I went through the books and I talked to my son, and he thinks that that's something that he could help us with. And we'll just have to figure out how do we want to animate, what do we want to put on the screen, that type of thing. So it's not just like talking heads.
I've actually in the middle of playing that as well, and TTS actually does have quite a few maps and models to go with it. And the best part about it is that you can go onto some of the Legion TTS models and actually copy those, save them as an object, and bring them into a RPG mat and put them on there, so that way you have like the actual like 3D models, kind of like X-Wing, and that way they're represented on a board, and that's what you can actually stream there with all the models and everything. So it's a lot more visual. So it's really good.
Yeah, so we were talking about doing X-Wing games, but on Friday nights, but we might switch to that in a couple of weeks or couple of months once he gets that campaign set up. And we draw characters. Probably should talk to Charles, see if he wants to join too. If not, I thought that would be kind of a fun thing to do that we could do on the side. So,
Oh yeah.
awesome. Well, anyway, why don't we get into? Do we want to get into some of the changes?
Let's do Gen Con news and everything. And I know they'll. I'll start off with the Star Wars Celebration announcement. It's just a quick word for it. Asmodee is hiring people to work the Star Wars Celebration event over in Anaheim. I believe the signups close tomorrow. So if you're interested in joining it, I've done Star Wars Celebration in the past, working for Asmodee, actually in a number of different conventions here in Orlando. It's a lot of fun. They send you games to go out and so that we can learn and test it, and that we could demo it at their conventions. They pay for your pass to go over there. In some cases, if you're working the full time, they'll actually pay for your flight and hotel over there as well. So if you have the chance to go out and do that, it's definitely a really great experience during your time free. Once you're done working, you can go into the convention center, go out and see all the different like venues that they have over there. And if you have a day off or like a particular day, go enjoy some of the panels that they do over there at Star Wars Celebration. It is a ton of fun, and I highly recommend it.
Now, did you do it before you had your kid?
I've done it both.
Ah.
Yes, I've done both. I normally do back when they had it before COVID, Dice Tower Con. That was hosted by the Dice Tower group that does like a bunch of board game reviews. They have a giant convention here, and I've worked for both Asmodee here, and I've also worked for Cool Stuff Games here as well, working their booths here, and it's fun. It's great.
Yeah, I was a little sad it wasn't in Florida this year, because it would have just been an easier excuse, to come down and visit you and Charles. But in California,
they always do. At least for Dice Tower Con, they tend to do it around July 4th weekend, and it's usually like 4 to 5 days, and it's fun. Definitely, lots of games.
All right. So to begin with, let's do Gencon.
Yep.
The rumor has it, and what I was told was that they are going to have X-Wing 3 days.
That's huge.
Yep. So, all right. So, and it is going to be a Worlds qualifier. So there will be World seats on the line. And it looks like, so they are doing, it's on Thursday. I don't know. So none of this is all crazy. Okay, because then they have X-Wing standard tournament.
So it might be that they're doing a side event first on Thursday, similar like how they did it at Adepticon, and then Friday, Saturday would be the main standard for the standard event. Or they're running it concurrently with the World's qualifier at the same time. So they have to clarify it a little bit more clear on the documentation that they have there. But I'm sure as we get closer, they'll put in more information along with like prizes and stuff. So
they have a World's qualifier pod on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It looks like.
Wow. Okay. I wonder if it's going to be like a full 6 rounds.
I would guess that it's not going to be 6 rounds. It says it's 7.5 hours. Let's click on it. Right? Gen Con tickets are not on. Gen Con passes are on sale, Greg, but the tickets for these events do not go on sale till May 15th. So we literally have exactly 2 weeks to make decisions, and then we all have to be online.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be capped at 64 players. So there will not be. I like this idea. That means there will not be 6 rounds. So what is 64 people? Is that 5 rounds? Or is that's 4 rounds?
That's 6 hours total for
so
4
it's 5
rounds.
rounds then.
So yeah, 5 rounds. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. I don't know. That's neat. That means if they're doing 64 each day, that means that's a total of 180, about 200 people roughly.
Yeah. That's huge, actually. To have that many players go in, it's going to be um, a lot of opportunities to go and get your Worlds tickets. So if you guys are going to go to Gen Con, as soon as those tickets go on sale, get them. Go get your tickets.
They also are going to have something called a World's Open Qualifier pre-cut, which I don't know what that is.
Oh.
It's free, though. Well, we're going to click on it and find out.
I wonder if it's like a warm-up event, I wonder. Similar to what we had at Adepticon.
Okay. All right, that makes sense then. Huh. Crazy. Anyway, they also have something called Last Man Standing, which we don't know what that is. I don't know if that's going to be a new format. Last Pilot Standing. So let's click on that, because I didn't actually, just so you know, I did not read any of these today. I saved all of this for the cast.
Last Pilot Standing kind of sounds like Aces High, except that you just keep on going.
All right, so it says you play a Fast and Furious 4-player X-Wing you control, provided ships while destroying whoever you can. Respawn, yeah, so you're right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, except that you can't bring your own. They provide you everything there. So it's kind of like the old FFG Furball, where they pre-set all the pilots up for everybody to come and play, and then you just choose one and you fly it.
That's kind of nice, though, right? I mean, that means that's less setup time. That's less
stuff that you have to bring because all the
yeah.
pilots are already there, right? They'll be set up right at the table.
Well, that's cool. So it looks like they're going to be firing a bunch of those off as well. Are you looking to go to Gen Con, JJ?
No, sadly, conventions and all these things are out for me for the rest of the year. Adepticon was my one shot for this year, but after getting all my stuff sorted for my big move this year, there's no way I'm going to make it. It's right at the heart of the time where I'm like moving all my stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I will probably be going this year. Man, Greg said it's $125 just for the convention pass.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just thought this would be neat. These are so I was very excited that they were going to they're having some sort of a standard tournament every day. They're having a World's Qualifier tournament every day. They're doing something called this Last Pilot Standing. And I'm guessing that we'll get something out of AMG within the next month. That's my guess. Yeah. They'll say something in a month, I hope, to tell us what they're actually planning. But I'm excited. That's 3. I don't know if you're going to, I'll be more interested to find out if, the top cut players win the tickets for the World Qualifier, or if it's only Final Cut that gets that type of stuff, So, because if they said, hey, we're going to give, tickets away, we're going to give, seats away, I would play every day in the pod until I got it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if I got it, I'd be like, here, somebody else want my spot?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you if you fail in the first one, you still have a chance to, make it to the top cut or the next 2 events. If you manage to get signed up in time for it, that'd be pretty great. Yeah. Hey, you could probably run different lists too.
Oh man, that'd be so much fun. I just want to see if they have the live action D&D.
That'd be great, actually.
Well, that was one that I've never been to Gen Con, so, and that was the one thing I want to do if I go there.
Yeah, I actually was signed up to go to do Gen Con in 2020, and then COVID hit, and that got canceled, and I was like, but yeah, sucked.
I'm not seeing the live. I'll have to look it up later, but I will be so anybody watching this, if they do a live version of this, a live actual D&D, and anybody else that wants to go, I 100% would go do that. I don't care. Last time I think it was $100 or something like that. I don't care though. To me, that is 100% worth the ticket price for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anyway, so that was kind of that. Want to jump into the ships?
Let's do it.
All right. So for the first announcement, they have a mini extravaganza on June 9th through the 11th. Hopefully, it's a little bit more structured than they've done in the past. And actually, what we probably should do is talk through. Maybe we should get with Greg and see if Greg wants to like combine and maybe stream some games. And we could like promote it or something like that and do commentary with him. Maybe we'll actually do a structured thing with the crap that they throw at us instead of, like what we did last time.
Yeah, that'd be fun if they do. Like they always in the last 2 years, right? So far, they put out like scenarios for everybody to play and just record your results online and submit it over to them. Those are kind of like fun little one-off formats that would be great to stream and play online.
Yeah, because I think if we committed to that weekend and said we're going to do all 3 days, and if Greg doesn't want to stream, we'll stream, or we can work it out. I wonder if Greg would be interested in doing that, and then we could just rotate, who wants to commentate versus who wants to play. So
yeah,
I'll
absolutely.
happily commentate and watch it. But anyway, so mini extravaganza is officially announced. The first pilot that we have here is the Outer Rim Hunter.
Yep, we got a generic one here for the Rogue class starfighter here. We've seen the stat line before here: 2 attack, 2 agility, 5 hull, 2 shields with that focus boost or barrel roll or evade and barrel roll. Pretty solid chassis, I would say. Definitely pretty tanky. I'd expect this to actually have some ordnance slots, but with the way that the loadout points have been traditionally on all these generics here, I don't see this having very much in terms of loadout to equip anything out on here. I would say, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 points loadout points. In terms of cost, how much this would go, I mean, I would be really surprised if this is anything less than like 3 points at best.
Yeah, and I would agree. I will caution you though. I mean, that's a 7 health ship, JJ. I mean, I know it's only 2 agility, but like my Techno Unibombers are 3 points, and they only have 5 health, no shields, same stat line.
That's true.
So I actually bet you this is going to get priced in the 4-point range, and they have linked actions, dude. So
that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Would you put them at the same tier as I know that they have 3 attack dice, but as a TIE Interceptor?
Yeah, okay.
Because this has almost double the health. Actually, no, more than double the health.
It does. I don't know. I'm guessing 4 points is what they're going to do. I don't see this coming in under 4 points, unfortunately. I mean, maybe they'll get, because again, you got to think you don't want spam. Like, so what's, and again, I know this is dumb, but just think if they're 3 points each, you can fit 6 in a list and then a 2-pointer. So 6 times 7 is 42 health. They're not going to be 3 points.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
They probably still burn down, but.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. The next pilot is Victor Hell.
Yep, Initiative 4 pilot here for the Rogue class starfighter, previously seen in the Kirax fighter that hasn't been re-released yet here in Scum. So his ability reads: after you defend, if you did not roll exactly 2 defense die, the attacker gains 1 stress token, which is actually pretty nice for this particular chassis. He is pretty decent in the Kirax fighter as well. I'm pretty sure this is going to come in at a 5-point cost, just for that ability. It's pretty much always, it's pretty easy to proc, especially if you're depending on range 3, or if you're playing with outmaneuver type aces like Wedge, or sometimes you'll see Luke on the board with outmaneuver on it. They're going to give that stress out to that particular ship if they get targeted. So I do see this coming out around that point cost.
Yeah, and I think that the neat thing that you're gonna see, like someone's gonna staple an engine upgrade to this too, right? I guess we missed that last week, but I didn't realize it was a native red boost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so. Absolutely. And the other thing to consider too is if you're running this with a large base that can equip, or even a medium base that can equip tactical scrambler, and they decide to take a shot through that ship, that's an additional green dice that they're rolling, and they're going to get stress on top of that. So that's a really good way to desensitize him getting shot, and have the other people just shoot at the range 0 shot instead.
Yeah. I think that's pretty good. I agree with you. That's got to be a 5-point ship. Like, otherwise, it's going to be a menace to deal with.
Absolutely.
The last one is Namlam. What?
The Laughing Bandit, Initiative 1 here, previously seen on the Jump Master, actually. So the one thing I got to comment is he attacking that mining guild tie? Because that thing's on fire. Like,
I don't know. I think he attacked it on his way through. He shot it, and he's like, I'm done. See ya. Have a nice life.
So his ability reads, at the start of the engagement phase, you may choose one enemy ship in your forward arc. If you do, you treat your initiative as equal to that ship until the end of the rounds. So it's actually different than his ability that he had on the Jump Master. Now, this ability is exactly, or at least partially, like an old 1.0 pilot that we had called Thweek, who was on the Star Viper, who had the ability to copy another ship's initiative, or their pilot ability. You could choose one of the two, and it stayed for the remainder of the game. And this version here in 2.0, it's a lot more toned down. It happens during the engagement phase only, not during the activation phase, which is huge. And you treat it until the end of the round, which means that at the end of the end round, it goes back to being an initiative 1. Now, there is, I do like that they tone down the ability a bit, because you can't really abuse like copying on initiative 7 or initiative 6 pilot and just have it running amok for what the point cost is going to be. I do see this still being a 5-point cost ship, because he still moves at initiative 1. I can even make an argument for being a 4-point costed ship. He does have that ability to copy that ace if he can. But yeah, I think that this is going to be a really good ship for the Rogue class Starfighter.
So the answer is it cannot be a 4-point ship. This would be insane at a 4-point ship. I mean, because it's not really a 1 initiative, right? That's not really a 1 initiative. It moves at 1 initiative, so it gets the advantages of the I-1, and then we'll be able to shoot at whatever initiative you come at it with. And the best part is it just has to be in your friendly, or in your firing arc, in your front arc there. So it's not like it has to be bullseye. It doesn't have to be anything else. I kind of like this ability a little bit, except for it's very scary. I mean, can you imagine? You cannot joust this ship without it getting a shot back at you. You just can't.
Yeah, that's true. And especially if this comes equipped with like a torpedo or missile slot, or a cannon slot, I think it'll be more dangerous with a cannon slot. Just getting that improved shot at range with a cannon. Even an HLC on this would be like really deadly, especially if it get that shot lined up against like a large base. This will do some pretty good damage.
Yes, and I was looking at the Dead to Rights again, and if we look at it, that's similar to what Ember has, actually, except for Ember says it has to be a damaged ship.
Yeah.
But I'm happy that it says while you perform an attack. That's it. Because if it was anything else, it would be broken.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're gonna bring back an oldie but goodie segment right now called our System Malfunction. Tonight with our System Malfunction, we are going to discuss Null's capability along with Namlam, right?
Okay.
And so JJ and I had a little bit of a discussion beforehand, and we don't agree exactly with each other. So essentially the way Null says, and I don't know, can we bring You know what? I guess I'd have to
Yep.
open.
So I can read it off here. So Null, and for those who don't know who that pilot is, he's a First Order TIE FO pilot for the First Order. So his ability reads: while you are not damaged, treat your initiative value as initiative 7. So the conversation that we had regarding this was the interaction between Nom and Null. So on my point of the discussion was that assuming that Null is not damaged, and by not damaged means that he does not have any hull damage on it. If the player who had non-lum had first player, meaning that he would shoot first in the engagement phase, if he was able to put hull damage onto Null, then Null would immediately drop to initiative 0 and would not be able to shoot until it reaches down to initiative 0. And because non-lum would have gotten his shot off first, he basically pushes Null all the way down the initiative chain, and he himself does become an initiative 0 at that point.
So my belief is that is incorrect. And I only say that because Null gets his initiative at the start of the phase. It does not say he changes initiative, and I don't know if we have any other cards that would actually change initiative. I could be wrong.
We do, actually. So in the First Order, we have another pilot called Rush, right? He's an initiative 2 TIE silencer pilot, right? And his ability reads that once he's damaged, you may treat your initiative as initiative 6 from that point on. So one of the rulings that we had gotten from I forget, FFG or AMG at that point, was that that if at a higher initiative, right, like let's say at initiative 6, Rush were to get damaged, then he becomes an initiative 6. I'm sorry, let me start that over. So let's say at initiative 5, right, initiative 6 has already shot. At initiative 5, if they shot at Rush and he became damaged, then he becomes an initiative 6. So one of the rulings that they had to make was that because he's no longer an initiative 2, does he skip his shot? And it was ruled at that point that at the end of that particular initiative phase engagement, he would get his shot because his initiative was changed at that point from being damaged. That same logic would apply for Null because at that point, his ability is reliant on him being not damaged. So if he does take a damage card, his initiative would switch from initiative 7 down to initiative 0. That's the rationale that I would use.
So does that Rush still hold up?
What do you mean, his ability?
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
So you could shoot Rush and he doesn't get a shot?
No, he does get a shot. The ruling was that he, at the end of that initiative engagement, whether it have been 5 or 4, if he becomes damaged, then he does get his shot at the end of that engagement phase because he is now a higher initiative than what he was previously.
See, you could also make the argument from that says Null, because it's still at that beginning in that initiative, he would still be a 7, and he would be a 7 until the end of that phase. Because what you're saying is it's initiative shooting initiative 4, and all of a sudden he goes, oh, now I'm a 6, and now I got to be fitted into this 4 in the middle of that phase. So that would still say to me, Null could get shot, take the damage, and then would immediately become part of that.
Okay. Well, we got to put it up to a vote to our viewers. Let us know in the chat, what do you guys think? Does Null still get his shot at initiative 7 if he shot first from Null, or does he go down to initiative 0 and then take a shot at that time?
Yeah, and to me, it would seem, again, it's still going to be a very niche situation. Like, how often is Nom-Lum and Null going to ever face off? True. That type of a thing. And I'll tell you, like, when I fly Null, a lot of people will just go shoot Null right away, so they don't have to deal with them.
But he becomes like a better blocker, honestly, on initiative 0. He's pretty good, actually.
So the other question is, I guess in current state right now, if I'm Null and you shoot me and take damage, do I go immediately down to 0?
Yes.
That's how it's currently ruled.
Yeah, because at that point, assuming he takes a whole damage, right? Like, not that he loses a shield, but he actually has a whole damage card on him. That at that point, because he has damage, he would go down to initiative 0. So yes.
Oh, then why are we even arguing about this? If this has already been ruled, JJ, like
that's what I'm trying to tell you.
But it had okay, but you didn't reference the rule.
Okay.
You didn't reference that. I've never heard that before. So when I was flying,
Okay.
no, nobody ever told me I couldn't shoot at initiative 7, even if you got damage on me. Like, I never had an opponent go, you can't do that.
Yeah, like if you took a bomb, for instance, like a proton bomb that went on, or sorry, not a proton, a concussion bomb, let's say, that went under your shields during the activation phase. And at that point, he would have been damaged, and then engagement phase started, and he's in initiative 0.
Yes, but I've never had it where I've been initiative 7 and lost it for whatever reason. So
the only other way that would have happened currently in game would have been is if he's facing off against a Jedi that has heightened perception and also had first player, which means that they would have had the first shot, and then also gotten damage onto null. That would have dropped them down to initiative 0 as well.
Okay, so we don't have an actual case then.
Yeah. Now, the interesting interaction, though, is with heightened perception and non-lum, right? Because a player order matters in this case, right? So if you have non-lum choose to copy a Jedi first, they copy their initiative. Let's say he chooses to copy Barriss for some reason, because that's the only ship. And then Barriss has heightened perception equipped. If non-lum copies Barriss's initiative, then at that point, she would become an initiative 4. And then Barriss can trigger heightened perception at the start of the engagement phase and now become an initiative 7. Non-lum at this point, as I read it, would still remain at initiative 4.
I mean, because that would kind of be the same thing as if non-lum flies in, right, and you had that. So let's say you... Okay, because here's even crazier thinking. So at the start of the engagement, okay, so I see. So non-lum only changes at engagement phase.
Yeah, the start of the engagement. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Because otherwise, it'd be even crazier if he changed back and got to shoot twice.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think you would be able to do that. But you could, if you have him and Torkel Mux, you can choose to trigger him first, and then Torkel Mux the ship that he just copied down to 0. And non-lum would retain the ship's initiative that you just copied.
Just stop. You know, you're gonna make me hate Torkel Mux. Like, don't bring back Torkel Mux.
I gotta get the heat off of Neen Num, man.
No. I still hate Neen Num, but Neen Num is not a threat.
Oh man,
Torkel Mux isn't as much of a threat without Moldy Crow, though. I will say that.
Yeah, by far, absolutely.
He's very easy to arc dodge at that point, unless you want to bring down my stupid little droid, then I don't care.
Yeah,
but if my Grievous gets in your front arc, then shame on me. At that point,
yeah.
All right. So those are kind of the new ships that we had. So now we're going to move on to our Academy 101 segment. That being said, last week we started a discussion on scenarios, wing conditions, different things like that. And then what I wanted to do is that's what I want to focus on this week. And essentially to kind of lay out exactly what I was thinking, how I wanted to go through this, so we don't have a bunch of confusion, is the idea is we're going to take and dissect every one of the different scenarios, talk about wing conditions, talk about objective placements, talk about types of lists that work best, don't work best. When do you pivot your wing condition? And if we want to, we could talk about opening engagement type tactics, right? That one's kind of an off left field, but the idea is if we can categorize different lists, so for example, 4 rebel arcs is a beef list. That's what JJ would call that. I would call it a nightmare on 1 agility, but that's just me. And so the difference is, though, right, is if we have rough understandings of list styles without having the exact list, you could build around and be part of that list. So if we say, hey, we have a control list, right? We have Unkar Plut, we have Ketsu, we have, I don't know what else can throw tractor tokens. Oh, ensnared.
Yeah.
You know, when we look at what is a control list, what we have there, right, then is the fact that if you build something and it fits into those parameters, your win conditions for that specific scenario are going to be roughly these type of things. And the idea is if we put these win conditions together, we put the style of the objective together, we then are able to look at each different style list and say, okay, well, based on this list will have this probability rating to hit that, right? Again, not perfect science, but it gives us a different way to go about actually examining each different faction. Because this week we could say, hey, we're going to look at Assault on the Satellite Array, which is what we want to do, right? And then we can kind of go through different lists and the different factions, or we can move on to the next scenario and kind of do the same thing. And then we can come back and actually analyze ships, pilots, and lists that fit that piece of it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions, JJ, or anything you want to comment before we get going?
Nope, let's get to it.
All right, so we have Assault at the Satellite Array. That is our first one. JJ, you want to give us a high-level overview of what that specific scenario is?
So this is one of the standard scenarios that we have here for X-Wing. Essentially, it boils down to area control for this style of play. You place 5 different objective points between yourself and the other player, one of them being in the center. And the objective of this particular scenario is to have your ships within range 0 to 1 of each of those objective points to control them. Your small base ships count as 1 point, count as 1 ship, and then the medium bases and the large bases count as 2. So the larger ships do have a little bit of advantage when it comes to contesting those objective points. And then, of course, the first player to 20 points or more in this particular scenario wins that engagement.
Yep. There is no half points. You are not rewarded for destroying. Best ships for each scenario. Jedi's only for the next month, Greg. In a month, that will change.
Yeah,
I will bet money that Jedi's will not be as good as they are in a month, or whenever they have the next points rule. So we can take the over/under on that if you want. All right. So yeah, that makes sense. So essentially, it's the idea is be next to the objectives is king, correct?
That's right.
All right. So we brought up a little bit of a scenario here. As you can see, it's cockeyed because I guess I don't know how to not make it cockeyed. Anyway, so as you see, JJ's already placed all the obstacles, which I would disagree with where he places them, but he did place all the obstacles.
Yeah, it's just random. It's randomized just for the heck of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. You're missing the good obstacle, buddy. You're missing the weird, long, like, finger looking
middle finger?
one.
Yeah, the middle finger. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Okay. I thought you were talking about the
No, not the bacon. Not the bacon. Oh, that one? That's the hook. Nah.
Yeah.
No, that's the claw. I always consider that one the claw. Now we're losing people. Anyway, so he's already placed all the objectives. So the idea is the more ships you have, in that area, the more points you score. Now, what list, JJ, do you feel fit this, or what do you feel is the win condition? So again, we could have several win conditions depending on the list, but if we were looking at this as a holistic view on a high level, having ships near objectives, you don't have to take your actions. You just have to have ships that are near objectives to get points.
Right. This one is a little bit more forgiving than some of the other scenarios, because some of the other scenarios require you to spend an action in order to interact with that particular objective point, like salvage or scramble transmission, for instance. For this one, as long as you're just near that particular area, this then you're in contention for that particular spot. So trying to cover as many of these spots as possible, and just denying those areas from your opponent, that is your win condition for this particular scenario.
Yep. So in terms of when we look at lists, the types of lists that I see that do really well, because again, this talks about, do we want to go for objective points, or do you just want to murder things, right? Because again, our old mentality would say we just go murder things. That's how we have always done it. Why would we do anything different? And I think in this specific area, right? I think there's two things to scoring objective points over killing things, right? One is very fast ships that can move from one objective to the other and still be defensive. So they're very versatile, a very versatile list. That would be, one, because and again, I won't use Jedi because I hate Jedi, but we'll just use a Naboo. We'll use, God damn it, that's still Republic 2, isn't it? A Naboo wants to go 3 to 5 anyway. So if you had, I don't know, can you see? Oh, you can see my hand. If I had a Naboo here, I can come over here. I'm getting an objective point. I can then be here the next turn within that vicinity. Again, not as easy. Well, it'd take me 2 turns to get there. But you get what I'm saying is I have my native boost. And it looks like you're loading a squad.
Yep. Just so we can use the models just to represent it a little bit better.
All right.
We'll use this for our medium base, and I'll bring up a large base here as well. And we'll get a small base here in a second.
Cool. So the idea here is that if you have a ship that can move, that's very versatile, that can fly really well as still get its mods, that is a list that will do very well in the scenario, because you don't specifically have to engage and attack. You can pot shot, you can run, you can just skip between the two. The other type of list, and before JJ says, well, I'm pretty sure it's a droid list, I would disagree with you, actually. I don't like droid lists in this specific engagement. I would actually say lists that have a mix of medium base, like slow moving medium base, and then a few smaller ships do very well. So you have a couple of ships that can be on their own, can go take objectives. I don't know what you would call that in terms of a list style. I don't know.Maybe JJ has a name. I don't know what you would call that.
I would call it a jack of all trades, basically.
But essentially, that's kind of what you're looking at. So a jack of all trades and a really fast ship list. Those are kind of the two that I feel do the best in this type of a scenario. What is your thoughts, JJ?
Yeah, I do agree that having a jack of all trades list does help you, especially if you can manage to get your ship count between 4 to 5 ships. I think that's the best, because if you manage to get your ships to have to be as efficient on its own as it can, or at least share its effectiveness with a support ship to go along with it, to help it get that extra actions or extra tokens to help support you control certain objectives, then you're gonna score some points, because you're gonna discourage your opponent from coming in and trying to take those points, those control points from you in that area there. Also having, especially when it comes to the center objective, where it turns out to be probably the more contested area there, where people tend to gravitate towards the center there as they're passing by or coming through. Having more bodies in the area to prevent that objective from going to your opponent, denying those free points over to them, definitely really helps to help you at least deny your opponent from getting those points, if not getting that point yourself, if they decide to abandon it in favor for other locations there. Now, the other thing that we can take into account here is some of the larger ship counts that we can see. Right, we know that in almost every faction there are ways to get up to 7 ships, and or at least 6 ships in your list, and that helps you really spread out and help you go after some of those objectives. Even if you send out your weaker ships along the side flanks to try to catch some of the objectives towards your opponent's edge, that helps put the pressure on your opponent to either split their forces or dedicate their forces to try to take out some of the other groupings of ships that are coming in through the center. They do have a little bit of an advantage just in the bodies to go and contest other objectives towards the edge. The only caveat is that they do have to be fast in order to get over to that location and contest it, and also just keep in mind not to like run into some of the enemy aces that might have a better shot or better modifications on offense or defense, and end up getting destroyed and giving up points instead.
Yep. So do you feel wing condition is more so collecting objective points or killing other ships?
It depends. So it really depends on the matchup that you end up getting. I say that you, in this particular scenario, you do tend to lean more on the points that you collect from the objectives, because it's easier to contest one objective in the center and hang on being uncontested at other points. You tend to generate more points that way. And just have your opponent just chase some of your ships around while you have everybody else collecting points off of the other objectives. I mean, if you think about it, if you manage to, let's say, control 2 control points steadily throughout the rounds, that's going to be by the end of 3 rounds, that's 6 points. That's the equivalent of like probably one of these medium base or large base ships that you see on the board here without having to put too much effort into combat. And that's a really good way to get ahead. So definitely, I think that just collecting those points is probably going to be a more of a win condition than killing your ships on average.
Yep, and I think that's why that mid-tier list fits, or what did you call it? Jack of all trades list fits better, because you're going to have either 2 medium base or 1 large base and some small bases, you know, and like, so for example, Charles's list that we reviewed was 3 large bases. That's not a jack of all trades list. So you would dump Lando, and that would give you room for the 2 4 points, you know, the two pointers, right? I think.
Mm-hmm.
How much is Lando? 6 points or 7?
Oh, well, 7 points.
Yep. And then that gives you enough for like a Hawk, like a support ship. So you have a support ship. You have 2 ships that can kind of be off on their own and go collect objectives, but you don't have really that AC style fast ship, you know, in there. But Scum really, I don't think Scum really has that other than a Fang Fighter, which is really overpriced at this point in the meta.
and not to say that, you know, that's the be all end all. I mean, you can certainly, and I've seen other people play on different streams where they do bring in the large bases with a smaller ship count, either a 3 or 4 ship count, and they do well these objectives, because if you take a look at the large base in particular, this, if you manage to put it in the right location, and part of this also has to do with how you set up your objectives as well from the get-go. I mean, if you take a look at this Gauntlet Fighter here, you can easily put it here in the center where he has a great avenue in the front, or he can rotate to the side on a separate turn and have shots going down the center this way. And at both of those times, he's at range 1 of both of these objectives. And if he's only fighting off 1 ship from either corner, he's going to either win those objectives outright because he's out contesting them just by being a large base, or he prevents the other opponent from collecting them if there's 2 ships in that area. And it's rare that you'll see 3 ships come in all together there while the rest of the other objectives are uncontested. And if they're doing that, then your counter to that would be having your other ships going out and grabbing those other uncontested objectives at that point. So it's adjusting your play style and keeping in mind what your win condition is at that point. You're still going for those objectives, but you're being a threat by bringing in a really powerful ship in the center that can tank a few shots and deal punishment in return as well.
Because I think you can still run. You can, if you get rid of Rook, you could run Maul, Kanan, the 2 2-point ships, and Q9 or one of the guild bounty hunters. And essentially that's a 5-ship list that actually has 2 invisible ships for this type of scenario. None of them are going to do 1,000,000 pounds of damage, but I think here again the idea is our win condition is not specific damage. Our win condition is because here you go, if they come in and swarm your 8-point Maul ship, Maul's just leaving. He's going to the other side of the board. So you have to pin him in to get him to be stuck there.
Right.
And those gauntlets are really hard to pin in, especially when you give them lanes like that. So
yeah, exactly.
That guy's got a lane for days.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the strategy to this as well, right? Turn 0, making sure that if you're, know the strengths of your list, right? If you're having that medium or large base ship coming in towards the center, or you're planning to place them towards the center, making sure that your obstacle placement is wide enough to make sure that your ships have a lane to go through and fly through to contest those objectives is very, very key. Because it's a whole different story if this rock placement is done a little bit different over here, and let's say that your opponent also decides to put it over here. Placing your gauntlet anywhere in this corner over here is not ideal. You're going to want to kind of place them over here on this side, but at the same time, you're minimizing the effectiveness of your list, because even if you place it here, it's going to be very difficult for you to get both of these objectives at range 1, you see, just outside. So knowing where to place your objectives as well as placing your obstacles to benefit your list is very, very key for this scenario as well.
Yep. All right. So we've identified that style. The other one is the high agility moving ship, right? Your high agility moving ship is... high agility and fast moving ship would be something that would be a benefit, right? So I would say Rebels has A-Wings. That's probably the fastest moving ship in Rebels. Empire has interceptors. TIE fighters really don't fit there. Oh yeah, they do have you're right. They have X-Wings in kind of, and I say that, I don't know. X-Wings really still aren't that fast moving, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, the 4 straight boost can get you into the center objective if you're going straight from like the middle. But beyond that, the A-Wings are unmatched when it comes to like just doing that 5 straight boost. It's just really strong on the Rebellion. So yeah.
Empire has interceptors. What does FO have? FO has TIE BAs and silencers.
And the Whisper.
And a Whisper, which actually the Whisper is probably a more efficient ship for that. And I'm very sad because originally I was going to buy 4 or 5 Whispers, and I only need 3 of them, and I can't run the 4 Whisper list or 5 Whisper list that other people are running. So very sad by that.
It's just so expensive, man. It's way too expensive for what it is. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they'll make Whispers good again someday. Who knows? So what else? Obviously there's Jedi, our high agility type ships, A-Wings and Resistance, along with those T-70s. I mean, look at Snap. Snap has one of the versions of Snap has that boost. I mean, it's 6 points, but he gets that free boost after he moves. I've literally watched Snap take a center objective before, which is crazy because you wouldn't think you'd leave your X-Wing out there, but how many people boost into that center objective and get in there? You're probably taking a range 3 shot from somebody. That's about it. And then Snap can just run away again.
Yeah, exactly. And not on top of that, that's still a 3-die gun in the center as well that can challenge people who might try to come in through that area. And Snap will still have a mod too, because that passive boost on him from his ability just gets him into that range to contest that center objective, and then he can focus. If he has another ship there, he can target lock if he wants to be more aggressive, especially with ordnance. And he can definitely do a lot of work. Absolutely.
Yep. And in this scenario, because the ships don't have to take actions, having alternate ways to take actions don't really mean anything. I think beef ships or beefless kind of lose in this one. The only thing they're doing, beefless, high point is not losing a ship, but they're going to struggle to take those objective points. They just really are. In the separatist side, I will tell you a somewhat controlling list is good. The problem becomes is if you go up to those objectives, even if you're double calculating, it doesn't really matter. If you take 2 to 3 shots, you're only 2 agility, you're getting taken out. So I actually think this objective is probably one of the worst ones for separatists right now, unless you're running something, some sort of like 3 high initiative, like Sunfac, Grievous, and I don't know, Django, or I don't even think you could fit Django. I think it's a Boba that goes in there.
Yeah.
Or a Gauntlet. So.
Yeah, I think the Gauntlet is in a good spot for the Separatists, just to try to, like, similar to what we have here on the board, where you can have that one big ship to threaten down the center, and then some of the more efficient, smaller bases to come in from the flanks to try to contest objectives, and can turn into the center to help take out a ship if they have the opportunity to. And that's where Separatists are for this type of scenario at this point. Yeah.
Yep. All right, so we talked a little bit about a win condition. We talked about, what works best. Do you ever have to pivot? So I think, in terms of those 2 lists that we talked about, they probably don't have to pivot much unless somehow you get one of your ships burned down and you give up like 6 points. I don't think those lists have to pivot. I would say that the majority of other lists that fit into that scheme are still going to go for objective points, but they're going to give up a few of them to focus fire on the highest pointed ship that they can destroy. So if the Gauntlet is on the board, you're probably going after that Gauntlet. Except for if that ST-70 is on the board, I'm probably going after that one first. Even if it's a point or 2 less, I'm going to go after that one because it's easier to kill and has less health than that Gauntlet does. So... yeah. Your alternate win condition that I would see for this list is the destroying of the ships, and it's focusing fire on whatever has the highest amount of points. Because typically a mid-tier list, like a Jack of all trades list, is not going to have a high enough initiative ship or a fast enough ship that it's going to be able to run 2 or 3 of them away from you. If you take all, let's say, 4 of your ships or 5 of your ships and attack the large ship, it's going to die. It will die.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people were saying, hey, to begin with, you have to snatch those first 2 objective points. In this scenario, unless you're those 2 lists, I don't believe you have to snatch those 2 objective points right away. I don't believe that is a mandatory thing if you give up the 1 point. I think you need to go in and make kill boxes and start taking higher valued ships off the board in some way, shape, or form. Unless it's a stupid Anakin and an Ada, then the only thing that kills that is bombs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with the lower ship counts that you could potentially run on these type of scenarios, choosing your target is very key. Obviously, trying to take out that really high point costed ship on your enemy's list is very important. because you want to put the pressure on your opponent to try to make up those points, and while at the same time making sure that your own ship doesn't die in the process. The other part of it too is also kind of just taking what your enemy gives you, right? Sometimes an enemy will offer up a ship for to like distract it, and you got to make sure that you try to take it out as best as you can without sacrificing your own positioning for either holding a particular objective point or setting yourself in a position where you won't be able to come back to claim an objective spot the following rounds, and making sure that you don't overcommit on pursuing a ship that might be worth only 2 points or even 3 points, which may not be worth it in the long run if you end up sacrificing 1 or 2 control points with your list for it, and it's going to be more difficult for you to come back. In this particular example, let's say that you end up with your gauntlet here, and you have a lower costed ship here. In this case, Ezra is a 3-point ship. If you decide that you want to start chasing Ezra down the board over here, while he goes over here, the next turn here, you either, if you overcommit, you could end up coming out over here, and you're not going to be in a great spot to come back around to try to contest the rest of the board here. And now the rest of the list can come in and essentially start claiming these objectives that you just left behind while you're chasing a 3-point ship. So just reading the board state and knowing what your ship can and cannot do is very key there, to make sure that you're not giving up your positioning and letting your enemy kind of make you chase them just so you can leave up a spot that's more desirable for them.
Yep. So let's talk about objective placement a little bit. So if you want to, can you move the ships off the board just for a second? Yep. Or can you throw your range 1 bubbles? Or yeah, throw the range 1 bubbles up. I get the range 1 rulers, right? Sure. Yeah, because that shows us the board edge on the both sides.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yep. So what I think is interesting, and this is where we have to discuss a little bit, right? So if you normally, and again, people think that these, thank you. People think that normally what you would do with your objectives is you put one very close to you, right? So you can get it out of the gate without having to be super committed. And then you would place your opponents closer to the middle. So now the question becomes, right? Do you really genuinely want to do that, right? Do we genuinely want to place all of the objectives like we would normally place them, right? Do we really want that one objective so far down there that you have to come get it? And I think the answer is the only time you place, so we're going to go with the red side versus the blue. So the other side, JJ. Oh, I can move my stupid little hand too, can't I?
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot. Except for I chose black, so I don't show up very well. So this objective that you place down here to begin with is probably a mistake if that's the first objective you place on your side, right?
It would depend on the list, right? Because there's some lists that that do have a lot of high flying, like fast flying ships that can go fast between, like across the board to go claim objectives, and then you have ships that are basically like a support ship, for instance, like an AP5 type ship on the Syndicate that typically doesn't want to go too fast because it doesn't want to get ahead of its other ships to provide support. Having an objective like this where they can still support their ships, and I'll kind of use an example here. For instance, like they can start off here, do a 1 straight, still claim that objective point, and then slowly make their way across the board and still have range to those objective points while providing coordinates over to the other ships that are coming in either to the center or moving on to other objective points. If you have that kind of ship on your list, it is beneficial to have that because the opponent would have to spend resources to try to come down here to try to take out that support ship, which is typically lower in cost than some of your higher ships. and that's okay, right? Because you're making them deviate and leaving the other points open to try to bring them over here. However, if you don't have that kind of ship on your list, and you have more of an ace style list, let's say you had like these gauntlets, having one out here, it does not benefit you at all. You, just like I said before, you probably want to put this a little bit closer to other points, so that way it's easier for your other ships to come in and try to claim both of these objectives, or at least be able to transition from one objective to another on the pass, and always try to contest an objective point with every turn that you have with that ship.
Yep. The other thing to do is to think about it this way: is depending on what your opponent has for ships, the idea would be is if you look at, like, when you go to place it on their side, placing it as close to the board edge as you can actually is a benefit, because they have to then stay at that ship. So that, again, if it's the coordinating ship, and see, this is where I disagree a tiny bit with JJ in the coordination piece. I don't think a ship going one forward every turn is going to be able to coordinate more than 2 turns. That's it. And then those other ships are just going to move way past them. And it is range 1. So I would move my ship, my one would be closer to the center, is what I would do. It could be closer to the back. I wouldn't put it on the side here. I would put that one closer to the center. And then your first turn, you can do your one forward. So I would like put it closer to the center. Like, actually, yep, there you
go. Like right here.
Yes.
Okay.
And
that's a fair place.
What that does is the same thing, is you can come in on your angles. You can move your coordinating ship how you want it to move. And again, you think in only Rebel terms, I swear to God. Because nobody else goes fucking one forward almost ever except for Rebels. So, nobody. So that's just stupid.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, one straights isn't very common across the factions. You're absolutely
they're
right.
not.
Yeah.
Like,
they're not.
Nobody has it. Anyway, whatever. But then, if it were me, that's where I would place my first one. If I had that coordinator, if I have the fast moving ships, the really fast moving ships, I would leave one closer to the edge here, and then do the same thing on my opponent's side over here. Place it as far as I can, because I'm going to come in, I'm going to do a 3 forward. I believe a 3 forwards, 3 to 4 forward will still put me in range 1. And then the next turn, I'm doing a 5 straight all the way down the board edge, and barrel rolling, evading, or whatever I can do to get my stuff. And I've done that with Grievous before. When I run Grievous, I will have this objective here. Oh, stop locking him.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I would have this one here, a little bit closer to the edge. In the only for the fact that I could bring Grievous in here, put him. I don't know how you could come up to here, right?
Yeah, with a 4. Yeah.
I guess you have to lock it to get it to trigger it
locked.
thing.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, you had it.
You're killing me with this.
You're doing it.
I'm just going to let you do it. I want to know how far my ship can go.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, actually. So I think you're actually good right where you are there. That's right at the edge of range 1.
Yep. And will you take a maneuver template and put a maneuver? I think that's a 4 straight, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right on. Probably like a 4 straight with a boost.
Yep. So a 4 straight with a boost, or a 5 straight little offset. And then if you dial in a 5 straight maneuver, put your 5 straight template in there. And then move that ship all the way to the end. And if he's doing a 5 straight, yep, there you go. So you can actually do a 4 straight too, if you want it, and still probably be within range 1 of that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that you can hard turn later and still maintain that area right there next to that objective on the following turn as well.
Yep. And if you're Grievous, you're doing a 3 sloop and hoping there's still a ship there that you can shoot at, and then you got your objective for 3 turns. and that's over 50% of the damn game.
Yeah, that's very true.
So I think that's the idea is if you have fast moving ships, you want both of the objectives as far away from the board, or as far away from each other as you can on the one side, if you can get that. That way you could put your AC style player in that method, let him fly as fast as he can, or as fast as they can to get where they're going. Otherwise, if you have very slow, if your opponent has slow moving ships, putting that objective on the far back forces them to leave a ship behind. So if they have a 5-ship list, they're leaving 1 ship behind if they want that objective. And there could be arguments to be made of whether you care about that 1 point or not. I would not care as much about that 1 point, and I will tell you the last game I played, this is exactly what the opponent and I did to each other. They copied me, Sean, and I placed their objective as far as I could against the board edge for them, and that was purely because essentially the way that they were running Jedis and a gauntlet, right? And that forced that Jedi to stay out of combat if it wanted it, or it forced that gauntlet to stay out of combat and just stay back there. So it removed one of the ships from being able to take other objectives and attack me. And when you only have 4 Jedis and a gauntlet, if one of them gets left behind, that's a lot of points to leave behind, honestly. So, all right. Anything else that you wanted to discuss when it comes to assault at the satellite array?
Yeah, the other thing that we haven't really factored in is something that I have a lot of experience with is using bombs, lists with bombs. Now, in a list that that can toss bombs out the front, or at least drop bombs behind them, or even put like mines in their place. Having the objectives as close as possible, and then clustering them together with obstacle points to create these choke points here is a really great way to funnel enemy ships in and causing them to come in and take damage from those bombs. And cause them to think twice on whether or not they want to do that. Like if you take a look at this bomblet generator, for instance, if we take a look at the range 1, that's very close to all those 3 objective points there. It's even increased further when you consider if you make this into, like, let's say a seismic charge. That's 3 different objectives that you can hit with that 1 seismic charge, and that's potential damage there that could really either take out a ship that's wounded or take off a ship and open up that ship to critical damage from a follow-up shot. That's a really good way to choke those control points together and get those damages off if you're looking to go for more of a damage race versus an objective point race with your opponent there. That's something to definitely consider when you're doing these type of objectives. Mine's also really, really good as well. The cluster mine is really good to completely block off an area. The proximity mine almost area denies this entire corner right here. With all these objectives there, and the opponent is going to think twice of whether or not they want to take 1 automatic damage with 2 more potential damage there for trying to come in through this lane. So that's a really good tactic to use against opponents.
Or if you're JJ taking 3 cluster mines at once.
Yes. Actually, 4. It was 4 at once. Actually,
that's right. You're right. It was 4.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. And so that's where I think the control list does okay at this. The issue becomes is it has a harder time. If it could throw bombs and kill really aggressively, it would do good. But most control lists are not going to be that way. But if you could dump bombs and ionize things, or dump bombs and leave them there and then force people to come through or not come through there, if you can kill them, then it's a huge benefit to you. So thermal detonators are huge, I think, in this specific game. I think thermal detonators are a huge win. I think you're right, seismics are good too. But at the same token, seismics blow up the rocks, and then you kind of clear lanes. So if you have a delayed fuse, it's a little bit different. But again, if you're throwing it at the beginning of the round, throwing through a trajectory simulator, B-wing, trash target ship, and it lands and sits there, you would have to delayed fuse that thing. Or if nobody gets anywhere near there, you're out of luck. So, I guess as Ryan would say, he had hope in the community that you would not fly in and get damaged by bombs, or as D would say, that. But the reality is, I think people don't think about trajectory simulation as often as they could, and it's a very hard thing to avoid.
Yes, absolutely.
Hence, it needs to be put on the ban list. There we go.
All right.
So anything else?
Nope. Let's go on to our next scenario.
Actually, we are at 10:25, and I want to be able to dedicate a full 45 minutes to the next scenario.
Okay.
So next week we will do that. Next week we will do the next scenario. So the idea is we're going to do one scenario a week, unless we have nothing else planned. That we'll do 2 in a week. But so we can now either, if it's up to you, JJ, if you want, you could go into we could talk about ships or lists, or we could kind of save that till after we do all the scenarios.
Sure. Let's talk about the boogeyman that we have right now here, which is the Jedi lists. I'll bring up an archetype here that I actually preloaded here, just so we can discuss on why this particular setup is really good, or rather list, I should say. Give me just a second to spawn this list.
I could bring it up. Is it easier if I bring it up in YASB?
Yeah. Let's switch off into that. That's probably better. Yes. So what I'll do is I'll post it at the Discord here so that we can actually just grab it there.
I don't have my Discord up, buddy.
Oh, sorry, not Discord. Twitch chat. Sorry. All right. And we'll just kill TTS just to make this easier. All right, for those of you who want to follow along here, I just posted the list in the Discord here. Now, and again, this is just a kind of like an archetype of what we've been seeing a lot for the Republic in terms of like list builds. There are different variations of this. Some sub out one of the Jedis for like an ARC 170, or they can add on like a 5th Jedi to go in there, but it's relatively the archetype is having at least 4 Jedis in a list, where you also have a bunch of other modifications to make it really good as well. Typically, you see CLT Jedi just because they're valued at about 4 to 5 points, and you can easily fill out your list that way. And still have access to the Force. Now, what makes these particular ships really good is the amount of mods that they can get, particularly if they have another ship that can either coordinate to provide them additional tokens over to them, or give them extra actions to boost into position so that way they can outmaneuver their targets for better shots. The one that we have listed here, we'll do a quick rundown here. So Hawk and the Lat with dedicated barrage rockets and Ayla Sakura. Barriss Ulfi with instinctive aim, concussion missiles, and CLT. Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Ada 2 with brilliant evasion, marksmanship, auto blasters, R7A7. Contrail for 2 points there with the best title. And then Rick Olay here in the Naboo N1 Starfighter with Juke and advanced proton torpedoes. Again, not an exact list, but this is just to kind of demonstrate the point here. So a 5-ship list here, all of them with very high initiative, so they can react to the opponent's moving into an objective point to try to contest it over there, and then having the backup with Hawk to either coordinate them, extra action or token ahead of time to get it here. And then Hawk himself, with Ayla Sakura, able to get that focus token with a coordinate, and then being able to shoot a barrage rocket if he still has that focus token during his shot, and possibly doing some good damage at range 2 to 3 with his chassis. Now, all these ships, with the exception of the Lat, can do those fast 5 maneuvers with boosts with their abilities, and get into position to contest those objectives that are on the exterior part of the map. They don't necessarily have to go into the center to start claiming objectives. Typically, with these type of lists, they like to set up the objective points as farther as possible, to kind of spread out the enemy's formation, and it helps them be a little more evasive since they do have lower health. And they can also turn into an objective from the sides to kind of pincer their enemy if they decide to concentrate more towards the center, and they can start picking them apart at that point, and hopefully splitting their forces from the center out, making them less effective. And with their 3 agility on their ships, they can easily get into the fray and survive a couple of shots with the 3 agilities, the 3 agility rolls that they can get. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to evade the shots all the time, because green dice can suck sometimes, but they do have a pretty good chance, especially with extra tokens. And then, of course, the force itself on those ships acting as an additional modifier to help them get that extra mods if they're taking additional shots.
Yeah. And I think that right there in of itself is a pretty thing. And I think you could kind of almost say, so this list fits both of the things we talked about when we talked about high agility, fast moving lists and a jack of all trades list. This fits both of those and can operate both in the exact same way as the other one does.
Yeah, exactly. Another version of this that's not in the Republic, if you're like a first order player, this is one that I've played before with pretty good success so far. It doesn't have the same efficiency as the Jedi list, since the Jedis do have the Force, and that is a bigger deal. I posted it in the Discord there. So this one is a first order list here that kind of has a similar archetype, where it does have a supporting craft in Gideon Hask, followed by 4 really agile ships that can really get into places and start doing some damage here. So the first one here will be the She-class light shuttle Gideon Hask with Fanatical, Proud Tradition, Pattern Analyzer, Biohux Crypt Codes, General Hux, and Tactical Officer. We have in the TIE Whisper Nightfall with Proud Tradition, Ion Missiles, and Sensor Scramblers with Pattern Analyzer. Then Whirlwind, also in the TIE Whisper, with Predator, Proud Tradition, Ion Missiles, and Pattern Analyzer as well. Although I should probably change that to Optics. Then we have the TIE SE Bomber Dread with Pattern Analyzer, Ion Missiles, Blazer Bomb, and Delayed Fuses. And then to round out the list, Grudge with Feedback Ping, Pattern Analyzer, Ion Missiles, Proximity Mines, and Delayed Fuses. Those bombers moving at Initiative 2 and 3, going in to basically set themselves up for the system phase boost, and then dropping ordnance, and then getting into position to set up either ion missile shots to control their opponents for where they're going to go. And then the TIE Whispers can come in to either further do more damage, or they can go out on the exterior and claim objective points, particularly Nightfall with Sensor Scramblers, just getting that decloak 2 forward, and then a 5 straight can put them on the opposite side of the board really quick, or behind your enemy line. And there's not much you could do about it. So.
Yeah, see, and here I would change this a lot. I would dump Hux and TAC Officer. And
for Pyre and
yeah. I mean, for me, Pyre is a minimum staple until he goes up in points.
Yeah, again, just general archetype, not specific list. But yeah, you're right. I would absolutely put Pyre and Terex in there. Absolutely.
Yeah, because you can still keep your Proud Tradition. You can still keep your Fanatical. I would actually argue Fanatical should be dumped, and then you could at that point you could take your BioCrypts codes, and then you lock whatever ship you want to be able to coordinate to begin with.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, and same with here. These pattern analyze for Whirlwind at minimum. Pattern analyzer is worthless. You want advanced optics, and
exactly. Optics is far better on Whirlwind than Analyzer. It's something I just threw together just for sake.
Yeah, because Grudge is a 2, is Dread the 5? No, Dread's a 3. Yeah, so the other tactic is to take Whirlwind and make them use swarm tactics and make them an I7, so you can you could do that, but you don't have enough points with this list to do that without changing everything, which we're not going to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The other list that I had, and again, the Bosk is kind of interchangeable. Bosk could be Mando. Bosk could be Rook. Bosk could not be Maul without dropping Kanan down to. You could drop Kanan down to not Gleb, but what's the one that you can hold?
Gamut Key.
Gamut.
Yep. Gamut Key. Yep.
So you can drop Kanan down to Gamut and trade Bosk out for Maul if you wanted. I didn't go through and put any upgrades in here. Again, this is a flavor type ship. And I think here, when we talk about what goes on Kanan versus what goes on somebody else, Kanan is going to want to have something, maybe a cloaking device, right? Cloaking device has been beneficial, I've seen on him. You can use compassion as well on Kanan, and I think that works really well too.
Yeah, compassion on Kanan is really good. Although I do for Kanan, you should have enough points for a cloaking device and then also compassion, so that way you can just keep them out of harm's way, and you can always just get that shot, or rather that ability off consistently to protect some of your other ships. That's pretty good.
And I think in this list, that's where it would shine, right? Because you could drop Kanan down and Manaru down to 3-point ships if you wanted to, right? Like Boss technically comes in at 3 points if you didn't run him in the cruiser. So there's a couple other options, but this is that mid, in my opinion, this is that semi jack of all trades list. You're on the lower end of that scale because you're missing your fast ships, but really your Nadru and your Ahav can do whatever the hell they want, and they don't need support from anything else and can just run away.
So I do have a question on how you would actually build out this Manaru, right? Would you put him in with the Punishing One to make him more of a threat with the third die, or would you consider putting the Mandalorian on him so that way he has a white reinforce that he can pass over?
All right, so that's a really good question. Damn, I guess I never thought about putting the Mandalorian and then giving that reinforce to Bosk, because then that frees Bosk up to just take actions. Man, I don't know. So I guess I think you have to build Bosk first then. So then Bosk would either have and this is where this is the only issue I have with Bosk is you can get behind him a little too quickly, but you could run Jabba, right? On Bosk, and then you have your contraband cybernetics, allows you to just stop for 5 churns.
Yep.
And now you still got a million other points. You don't need the Houndstooth. You're taking Greedo. And you're probably going to take, and this is where I would argue for the case with him with Enduring. Because in his world, right, when he gets only 1 agility, if you use Greedo against him, and Enduring forces that crit to be neutralized first, no matter what. Like, it isn't even a question at that point.
If you could fit Queel into that build, you got me sold, man. Queel is just so good for a crew.
Yeah, I don't know. Hold on, we'll see. Because he can't. You have to drop Jabba then. You'd have to drop Jabba.
Oh, because you don't have that second one. Still, I mean, I gotta say, and just looking at Crispy, what he did the last weekend with Maul and Queel on it, Queel can just really help repair a ship back up really good if you get a good roll, and that's really good on Bosk. Yeah.
And if you're gonna do that, then what I would do is if you are gonna do that, drop Jabba.
Mm-hmm.
Where is Queel? I don't even see him. There
Should
he
be
is.
crew.
Yep,
Yeah.
he's only 4 points. For some reason, I thought he was 6. You could actually still fit Zam on here now, and still have 1 point left over, which I don't know what you would do with.
Good.
You would do nothing with it, I guess. I maybe at that point you get rid of Contraband.
No, I would keep Contraband just for the for that one turn that you absolutely need to.
Okay.
You know? But yeah, that's a heck of a nice little list there, actually.
So then the answer then, when we talk about it, is how do you build Manaroo to be able to pass it? Because again, right, you have Kanan as a coordinator, and you could have Manaroo as a coordinator. So if you want to be ultra defensive, then you would run, like you had said, no punishing one, and run this as a completely defensive ship that you could just shift off tokens for.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Mandalorian is only 2 points, right?
I'm not sure. You have to,
yes.
check that one.
Yeah, he's 2 points.
Then run a cannon on Manaroo. You could tractor or something. Yeah. Auto blaster.
Either auto blaster or heavy laser cannon. Probably auto blaster.
Yeah, auto blaster. Yeah.
And then just point your rotate out the side. Then you still got 3 points, so you can either take Agile Gunner if you wanted. You could still take the title, can't you? Or is the title 5 points?
The title
it kills your thing. Yeah. That's right. So you could run Agile Gunner. You could also put Enduring. I wish Manaroo had like 3 more points.
Yeah.
You could put Enduring on him if you wanted. And there's probably no more 1 point gunners.
I would actually consider Contraband over Enduring, just so he can turn around and then still, keep the pressure.
Do his thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you put over 2 modulators. I think you have to.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, you do, because then you can pass all your overtune modulators and your reinforced token all to Bosk in one turn, and Bosk could take a target lock. Zam?
Oh my god, yeah.
Well, then on Kanan, you're putting this. Is what you're doing. Then on Kanan, fuck. We're going all in, baby, on Bosk. Then you're putting Gamut Key. That's what you're gonna do on Kanan. You're putting Gamut Key on Kanan, and then you could double reinforce save, and oh my god, wait. And Kanan says during the end phase, circular tokens are not removed. You can literally pop overtuned, dump off all of that, give it to Bosk, let him save every one of those tokens that he doesn't use for the next turn. So now you have 35% of your whole fucking game with Bosk with reinforce and tokens. And if he takes a second reinforce token that turn, he now has 2 reinforce and 3 circular tokens. Three think that he can just save.
Calculates, yeah.
Yep, and then he can just go nuts the next round. Oh my god. Then the next round he could fucking pop Contraband and get a third reinforce.
My gosh.
And Manaroo can take a reinforce and pass a 4th one.
My gosh, that's nuts, man.
Oh my god, I'm building this. I'm building this for tomorrow. That's what I'm doing. This 100%. And now you have two large base ships that are going to contest points. You have two ships that are just going to run amok in behind, and Kanan's going to continually just kind of circle those two ships and deny range bonuses. That's what Kanan's going to do.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. I like it.
All right. Well, I think that's it for list building. If you have ideas and you would like to submit lists for us to review, hop on over to our Discord and go over to the Discord. And if I don't have one, I will, by the end of the night, have a list sharing or list thing inside of the Discord that you can share your list. So if you have a list that you were like, hey, based on last week's scenario discussion, we would like this list reviewed. How does this fit into that scenario? Or going forward at any time, you're welcome to do this. Because the idea is we're going to do all of these scenarios, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do more of a deep dive, and hopefully by then we'll get new points. And we're going to do a little bit more deep diving into each of the different factions and how they can all fit together, you know, and based on what archetypes. And then that's how we're going to track all of this. So all of it will be tracked. We're going to put it like in a Google Doc, or we're going to put it in a Google Sheets or something. And then it'll be, these are where we feel, and these are some of the lists that you can run, blah, blah, blah. And then it'll all be there for anybody who wants to take it and rip it apart and dissect it. But if you have a list, you're like, hey, I think this fits into this archetype. Can you go through this list? How do you feel about this list and how does it work? We will happily do that. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. Thank you all for joining us tonight. If you have not, consider sponsoring us on Patreon. We are working for our June. In June is when we went live with our first episode for our anniversary. We are going to try to do some sort of a big episode in June with giveaways and everything like that. So be prepared and be looking for our June episode where we'll be doing giveaways with some of the stuff that we have. The new Twitch announcement, the rumor is that they're going to start knocking people down to 50% versus 75% sponsorship. So we don't get 75% anyway because we're not that popular, but that is kind of that's kind of a negative effect. So we are looking at moving more of the subscription pieces to Patreon, and anybody that wants to support us there, we're going to update our rewards by the end of the month of May. And we'll be able to start giving out quarterly rewards and stuff like that. So with that being said, thank you all. Have a good night. And we'll be back next week with another Planning Phase Syndicate. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.